Let's go for a nice clean kill here. That was just to get our action skills up a little bit, top them off. I don't know what that is, Zane. Damn, I was really hoping that was gonna chain to him. Like that. Clearing them out. That burst damage is so insane. Clean. Zane! Alright, now that Lorelei is done screeching at us, let's talk about the Zane setup I'm using. So quickly, I'm just going to scroll through everything, and then I'll talk about it a little bit after that. So we'll start with skill trees. This is my green, blue, and orange, and or red. Gear wise, shot cutsman, radiation redistributor, good old Maggie, corrosive cutsman, shield, we're running a stopgap, running an It's Piss grenade, an icebreaker victory rush on our artifact, and of course the Seeing Dead. So if that's all you care about, then there you go. But otherwise, I want to highlight some of the things in my skill trees that might be a little different than what other people are using. I think just looking at this one, this is pretty standard. You put 5 in Synchronicity and 5 in Donnybrook, just because those two skills alone are insane. I have 2 points in Borrowed Time, which I know this is where people put some of their new points when we got the 3 new skill points. 3 out of 5 seemed a bit aggressive, like a little bit too much, so I only put 2. But I think this tree is pretty standard. In the green tree, I know a lot of people have 5 points in Brain Freeze, but I noticed that the point this build is at right now, everything dies so fast that I don't feel like I'm getting very much use out of Brain Freeze. The slow, I guess, is nice if you want some more CC, but again, things are dying so quickly that I didn't find it very useful to put 5 points here. So instead, I actually put those 5 points in Adrenaline, so that if your action skills do run out, and it happens occasionally, especially if you're not, sweating the whole time, and you want to just chill for a second on Zane, or maybe in the middle of a fight, your barrier runs out or something, and you need it to come back quicker. So I put the 5 points here just in case a action skill runs out. I mean, Sentinel especially is a super long cooldown. I found this to be really useful for getting my action skills back a bit quicker, so put 5 points here instead of Brain Freeze. And the blue tree, again, fairly standard. I would say the big difference is I like putting a point in C and red. I know a lot of people don't do that because you can activate your action skills just by doing damage because of the Seeing Dead class mod. But I like using this build for bossing, and I like having all of my buffs up going into the boss fight. So having this point in here allows me to do that. So if I wanted to go farm Grave Ward or Agonizer or whoever, I can activate my action skills, get all my buffs up before I start shooting my gun, and I don't have to worry about wasting any time. So I like putting a point in seeing red. If all you're doing is the takedown or the slaughter shaft, mobbing, stuff like that, then you don't need this point here, and potentially you could put that point into borrowed time and you'd have 3 out of 5 instead. But otherwise, everything's pretty standard for the, you know, chain Zane setup that Moxie likes to call it, so nothing too out of the ordinary. The other thing I do want to highlight with my Zane setup specifically is I have some very good rolls on the non-weapon stuff, and even my weapons are also very good rolls. If you saw, you know, I have Sentinel with cryo damage on all of these, which arguably is the best anoint you can have for Zane guns. So essentially best in slot setups for these guns. All of my other gear is level 50, but again, the rolls are so good that it's okay. For instance, the stopgap is insane. So I'm getting more move speed while Sentinel is active, so all the time. So more move speed is more damage. And if you'll notice the rolls I got on it, I got 10% movement speed while the shield is full and 10% movement speed while it's depleted. So we're getting an additional 10% movement speed almost at all times. You know, sometimes the shield will be recharging, we'll be in that area where we're not getting it, but a very good stopgap. I was freaking out when I got this roll. It's so good. The It's Piss grenade, pretty standard again. This is a best in slot, I would say, for Zane. So every time our little Sentinel throws this grenade, we're getting this buff, and also we're getting the debuff because of the 20% increased damage to enemies for 6 seconds. So also very good, and the level on this one doesn't really matter. I'm not going to take the time to farm a level 53 one because its damage doesn't really matter, and the other percentages aren't going to change when it's level 53. Our artifact is also very good. So I like the Icebreaker Victory Rush because we get bonus damage against frozen enemies, which happens a lot already. With Brain Freeze, they might even be frozen more often, but they freeze already so quickly because of how much damage we're doing that it's okay anyways. So if you look at the rolls I got on this, SMG damage, which is crazy, that's going to buff our Cutsmans and our Redistributor. We got cryo damage, which is going to buff the anoints we have in all of our guns because we have 100% damage as bonus cryo damage. And we got area of effect damage. So all the radiation damage and the aura damage from our Redistributor is also buffed by that 33%. So this is a really good artifact. Again, I want to stress that my rolls are very good. It's level 50, so technically we could get a better one, but it would just be a few percentages here and there. And Seeing Dead-wise, this is also very good. Weapon damage, SMG damage, and pistol damage. We only use pistols and SMGs, so we're getting a 56% damage buff from this class mod at all times, on top of +3 to Donnybrook. So this is a very good roll. I think I'd prefer +2 to playing dirty instead of in violent violence. I think having the extra shot chance would be better than a little more fire rate. But otherwise, it's a very good roll. The 3 in Donnybrook is crazy. If we look at these two skills, we're getting 36% gun damage, and it stacks twice. So from this skill, we're getting 72% gun damage. Insane. And from Synchronicity, we're getting another 40%. Because we have 2 action skills active at once. So those 2 skills are giving us a ton of damage. So otherwise, that's pretty much my Zane setup. Pretty standard for chain Zane, with just a little tweaks here and there, but definitely farmed pretty well, and there's some room for improvement on some of this gear, but for the most part, this is, you know, your best in slot endgame stuff for Zane.